So you've probably heard a lot about this, right? A president's son facing felony charges. A debate over how official documents are even signed. It can get pretty confusing. Today, we're going to cut through all that noise. We're breaking down two of the most charged controversies of the Biden presidency. Our goal here is simple. Let's separate what we know happened from all the political chatter. Okay, let's get into it.
All right, before we jump into the thick of it, we got to set the stage a little. To really get what's going on, you have to remember that Joe Biden has been in the public eye for decades. His whole career, from senator to president, is a story of ambition for sure, but it's also been marked by some really deep personal tragedies, and that's become a huge part of who people see him as. This long, complicated history is really the backdrop for everything we're about to talk about.
So what we're really digging into are two totally different kinds of stories. On one hand, you've got this deeply personal situation, a massive legal and political firestorm all around his son, Hunter. And on the other hand, it's something much more institutional. I'm talking about a debate over the nitty-gritty mechanics of being president, like how official papers actually get signed. So let's unpack the facts, one by one.
First up, the whole Hunter Biden situation. This is a really complex one, a mix of legal drama and political maneuvering that's been in the headlines pretty much nonstop since his dad took office.
You know, this whole thing didn't just pop up overnight. It's a story that's been building for over 10 years. It really kicks off back in 2014 with that controversial job on the board of Burisma, the Ukrainian energy company. That alone raised a ton of questions. Fast forward a bit, his personal struggles come into play, leading to a gun purchase in 2018 that eventually, in 2024, turns into a felony conviction. And then that conviction gets wiped away by a presidential pardon. So these are the big milestones, the key events that got us here.
So let's just focus on the stuff that's legally concrete, okay? What actually happened in the courts? We've got a federal indictment for not paying about $1.4 million in taxes. We have a felony conviction for illegally buying a gun. And because of that conviction, he had to give up his law license. I mean, these aren't just talking points or spin. These are actual established legal facts.
And this is where things get a little murkier, right? We pivot from straight-up legal facts to the political debate. The core accusation is this, that Hunter Biden was basically selling access, using his family name to get that cushy job at Burisma. But, and this is a really important but, after all the investigations, there hasn't been any direct evidence found that shows Joe Biden, when he was VP, actually did anything official to help his son's business.
Okay, let's switch gears. We're moving from a controversy that's all about family to one that's about the nuts and bolts of the presidency itself. It might sound a little old school, but it brings up some really big modern questions about power and transparency. We're talking about how the President of the United States literally signs his name on things.
So what's at the heart of this debate? A little device called an Autopen. Now, don't think of it like a rubber stamp. It's way more sophisticated. It's basically a robotic arm that holds an actual pen and perfectly copies a signature that's been recorded. The final result looks so real, it's almost impossible to tell the difference. And that's exactly why it's become such a big deal.
But here's the thing, the Autopen isn't some newfangled gadget they just rolled into the Oval Office. Its use is a long-standing, totally legal practice. I mean, we're talking precursors dating all the way back to Thomas Jefferson. The modern version we're talking about has been used by presidents since Harry Truman. And what's really important is that back in 2005, the Justice Department basically settled this, saying, yep, as long as the president authorizes it, signing a bill with an Autopen is perfectly legal and valid. So you might be thinking, if it's legal, what's all the fuss about? Well, here's the breakdown. On one side, you have critics saying its use has been way over the top, which makes them question if major documents are even legitimate. Some even go so far as to suggest it's being used to cover something up about the president's health. But on the other side, the White House defense is pretty simple. They say, look, this is a standard, legal, efficient tool, and the president gave the green light for every single signature, just like past administrations did.
Okay, so how do we wrap our heads around all this? With both of these stories, the absolute key is to be able to separate the hard facts from all the political noise that surrounds them. So let's do a quick recap of what we actually know for sure, and then we can talk about why any of this really matters.
All right, let's just lay it all out one last time. For Hunter Biden, the legal stuff is not up for debate. We have a tax indictment, a felony gun conviction, and he lost his law license. Those are on the record. The big question mark, the part that's still debated, is whether his dad was improperly involved in his business deals. Now for the Autopen, its use is legal and has a long history. That's a fact. The debate is all about how often it was used and what the exact approval process looked like behind the scenes.
So why should you care about any of this? Because it's way more than just political gossip. These stories are like gasoline on the fire of political polarization. They become weapons for both sides to use against each other. They also bring up some really fair questions from the public about transparency, you know? And at the end of the day, all this stuff can actually impact elections. It shapes how people see a leader's character and whether they think they're up for the job.
Ultimately, what these controversies really leave us with is a huge question. In today's world, with so much political spin coming at us 24/7, how do any of us tell the difference between what a leader actually did, the provable facts, and the powerful stories that get built up around them? And honestly, that's the challenge for all of us.